Secrets of the Ferns, Chapter 12, The Boy in All Black. The mysterious stranger in black sat down with 2 cups of coffee and 2 slices of pie for the both of us. It was 7 p.m. Central Time, and the Tennessean sunset was as amazing as ever on my walk back to the Nashville hostel. The cafe was mostly empty, save my new friend and 2 other patrons who were working on their laptops. So he finally decided to tell me of his childhood. This is what he had to say. November 23rd, 1975 was my 12th birthday. A flood of memories came rushing through me in a series of dreams. I couldn't even begin to understand them. I remember distinctly I was in a British zoo. I was able to telepathically talk to the lions. My parents did not understand my amazement of the lions and the jaguars and other wild cats, for I kept it to myself. It wasn't the only time I had been able to talk to lions. I was a writer. I had a recollection of an old British movie I had never seen before called The Man in Black. I was very much drawn to the color and wore black jeans and shirts. I'm not sure why, but I wrote a series of short stories about an evil man who wore all black and perpetuated chaos and destruction in many forms. A very prominent writer read my submissions to a short story contest. He was amazed at my work as a child and wanted to sign me to a book deal. It was very flattering, but I had to refuse it on my 12th birthday after meditating on my dreams. I tried to smoke some pot to open my mind up to it, but I only fell asleep and woke up very hungry and tired. I told the writer to take my stories and to rewrite them under his own name, as long as he keeps the character a villain. For some reasons, I had a feeling that I remembered meeting God in a past life. It hardly made sense, but I remembered God being a malicious and wrathful immortal who was imprisoning other immortals. It took me 7 lifetimes to remember what the lions in the alternate dimension of reality told me before they devoured my old self as Judas. It also took me 7 lifetimes to remember the fangul, the things I experienced before, as I had memories of these things before, but now I was beginning to remember more and more details as each day passed by me. I remember watching the news when I was dying last. I was an old British man lying on my deathbed. John F. Kennedy had been shot, and it was all everyone ever spoke of. I soon died a couple hours right after him. I remembered many friends, family members, and colleagues. Of course, I'm an American now, but not then. Then, I was an English writer who had lots of literary friends like J.R.R. Tolkien. I remember Tolkien very well. Another gentleman from my time had a memorable name, Aldous Huxley. I had trouble remembering his significance, for there had been for generations a blockage in my consciousness. I could no longer resist the memories, the knowledge of God hungering for more and more power, and the immortals trapped in the alternate dimension through the lake of fire. I was only 12 years old, but more memories came to me. It seemed at age 12, each reincarnation of my soul seemed to do what nobody else could do. That was to remember my past lives. Before age 12, I seemed to suffer a post-death dementia of sorts. It's a muddied grasp on reality that seems to stick with me all through my life and deaths. I had been 3 different famous English writers, a philosopher in a few forms, a politician 3 times, even a folk hero turned bastardized Bible hero. I knew as well as you, friend, that I could not tell anybody these things until I met you. You are studying caves, yes? I nodded, chewing on some chocolate chess pie that was so good it melted in my mouth. The coffee was satisfactory, but the conversation seemed to make me uncomfortable at this juncture. What was the man in black implying? That I can somehow help him fight God? These bizarre stories. Of course, he hasn't told anyone. This is textbook delusional thinking. My cousin got diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I am a little bit familiar with what it looks like. Of course, I didn't know what to say other than yes, I did indeed study caves. If my calculations are correct, then there are 4 immortals trapped down inside of a deep cave system 4 hours east of here in Pigeon Forge. We're deploying the last of our test run of AI bots to go down that system next week. I just finished my 3-day presentation on these bots and how we need more funding to explore our cave systems. I had to hash out and rehash what it can mean for our history and archaeological departments at the university. I told him this, and I thought about it carefully and gave him my offer. How about I take you along with me then? The man in black seemed very happy to hear this. We wrote in our planners, and then he began telling me about his reawakening. So I remembered the way I wrote about lions in my books. They could talk in my stories. One was a fictional fantasy character, a divine being named Aslan. My friend Tolkien helped me process my memories that I confided to him. I do wish I had shown him a letter I received a month before I had died. It was a letter from a British American fellow. For the life of me, I cannot remember who it was. The man in black paused in hopes of clarity, but it never came. I remember something he kept saying that struck me as odd, yet familiarly true to me. He said in his last letter, "Lewis, I must warn you about the false god and his many agents of evil. He is coming for us. He has been watching our every move towards achievement and has been poisoning us in our old age. Death nears us both, but you have an advantage. Please remember my words in the next life and know you are truly a kindred spirit to me. Despite our many differences of opinions, philosophies, and beliefs of theology, I hope you do find yourself back from battle, out of the wardrobe, and writing poetry again. Yours truly, Blast it all. The man in black gave up trying to remember his friend's name. He chewed on some pie and proceeded on with his story. I remember being very emotional and wondering what he meant. We had both gotten ill in our homes. God was still after me. I didn't realize shortly before I perished in my bed, God and his agents targeted not just me, but lots of great people, many of whom died mysteriously at an acute age range, 23 to 32, throughout the 20th century. I remember everything beginning to make sense right before my last death. When I turned 12 in this lifetime, I felt restless in my boyhood home. I crawled out of my bedroom window to go venture in the woods most nights. There was the full golden moon surveilling me as I walked underneath the tall, bare trees of November. The air brushed against my neck, and it felt relaxing. Before my feet, something slithered away. I remember saying, "Stop, I won't hurt you," to the snake. It turned around to me.
"You are the one. The man with many names and faces. The timeless mortal."
I confirmed the snake's hunch.
"So you may know the immortals are back, but are trapped inside of a cave system."
I told the Fanghoul that this was news to me.
"Yes, they need your help."
The serpent spirit gave me their coordinates, but I lost them. And over the years I did my own research out of the eyes of God, who, despite the propaganda, cannot see all. 2 years before this, I was working on my stories that later got rewritten by a prolific author, to whom I swore an oath that I'd never give his name out. It was a cold November that year, and a very renowned man came upon me. I'd been really into an illustration I was working on, of a certain passage of my story. I was drawing this iconic image in my mind of a man in black clothing. The man who happened upon me, sitting on the front porch swing, doodling in my notebook, was a musician who was related to the family in some distant way. He joked that I was drawing him. I encouraged him to write a song about it. He did, and sent me half the royalties for the song. It became a huge hit. Plus, the not-to-be-named writer who adopted my character from my stories sent me royalties on a series he created later in the 80s. Both men are household names, but their names and families must remain a secret and be hidden from God and his agents. The man in black paused for a second. Here I was, just a square who studies caves. The only author I could think of was Walter Flagg, but it seemed ridiculous that my friend would somehow inspire a writer so famous and legendary as he. The man in black continued. It was at this moment, thinking about my past lives and my interactions with God and Satan, that I remembered another musician who was not trapped in hell, who was known for his horn playing. He too abandoned God's quest for domination of the universe, and his name was Gabriel. I also remembered where to find this angel too. The man in black finished his story as I went to go order some more pie for us. He refused, saying he had some reading to catch up on. This disappointed me as I yearned to hear more of his story, but I too had some reading to catch up on. So I pulled out my book written by a cave specialist in the 1950s who helped discover the Nag Hammadi in Egypt. I ate 2 more slices of pie by myself, somehow unable to soak in the words I read on the pages I flipped through. I stumbled on a weird little local paper and read a bit before sleeping and having strange dreams.